60 Minutes Overtime.
In your view, China is preparing the ground for what?
In the view of U.S. intelligence officials and government leaders now for years, China is preparing to be able to fight and defeat the United States military in a war.
This week on 60 Minutes, we report on concerns that China might be plotting to weaponize land that it has in the United States and giant data centers that it is building here. The worry in Washington is that these assets could be used for espionage or to cause havoc in a time of war.
There is Chinese ownership of all kinds of assets in the United States that pose a range of national security threats, some of which we've begun to kind of recognize and mitigate in recent years, and some of which I think we need a lot more work to recognize and to address through policy.
We spoke with David Feith. In the first Trump administration, he worked on U.S.-China policy for the State Department. Until recently, Feith worked in Trump's second administration on the National Security Council. And while there, he grew alarmed as China bought up American farmland. Farmland? Why would that be a problem?
The ability to own large tracts of land, especially close to sensitive U.S. military and government facilities, can pose an enormous problem given the nature of technology today, which is that a hostile actor from across the world can very easily exploit access to land, access to buildings and warehouses, access just to a shipping container or two, and do enormous damage, either in intelligence terms or in military terms. Look at what the Ukrainians, for example, did to the Russians just a few months ago by sending a shipping container full of autonomous drones deep into Russia, opening the container and unleashing the drones against Russia's nuclear bomber fleet when it was on the ground, carrying out an enormously successful attack for the Ukrainians. And China has, through its ownership of assets, including farmland in the United States, far more operating room.
You don't necessarily have to have an intercontinental ballistic missile anymore.
Certainly not.
Because of drones.
Exactly. And it's an entirely new way of war.
This fear is why in 2023, North Dakota politicians blocked a Chinese company from building a corn mill near an Air Force base. At the time, the company denied it would use the mill to spy on or harm the United States. China isn't the only nation buying American farmland. As of 2023, non-Americans own about 45 million acres, or about 3.5% of agricultural land in the U.S. That's up about 70% from a decade earlier. Canadians own about a third of that, while Chinese nationals own just under 1%, or 277,000 acres. But that's enough to grab the attention of politicians. There's no federal law stopping foreigners from buying American farmland, but 29 states now limit it or ban it altogether. The Trump Agriculture Department says it will work with Congress to stop countries like China from buying land in the future. Beyond the farm, Feith says there is growing concern about Chinese crypto mines in the United States. Those are the giant data centers that support cryptocurrency. Feith believes that they could be used for espionage or to sabotage the electric grid.
They're effectively enormous and enormously powerful data centers. The first threat they pose is for intelligence collection, and the second threat is that they can sabotage the power grid because they draw so much power.
Paint that scenario for me. How would that happen?
These crypto mines are so power hungry. They draw so much power in order to power the computations that allow the mining of the cryptocurrency that really at any time of choosing, they can sabotage the grid in their area. And the fact that these mines, these large, powerful data centers, are so often located near sensitive U.S. military facilities underscores why this would be a potential catastrophe in crisis or conflict with China.
How extensive is the infiltration?
It's a nationwide problem.
No, a Chinese company operating in the United States would say, we're a private enterprise. We're not involved with the Chinese government.
Those claims are completely inconsistent with Chinese law and Chinese policy. Chinese law, in black letters, demands the cooperation of Chinese companies. So unfortunately, those kind of assurances are inconsistent with the way we know that Xi Jinping and the Chinese government operate.
What's at stake?
The threat that China poses, being a more capable rival to us than any we faced in the past, is that in ways that no American in living memory can understand, they could have a role in the future of the world economy, in the commanding heights of future technology, and then in our lives, in our backyards, in our politics, that would be different and far worse than anything that Americans have seen for generations.
Fair use of the 1976 Copyright Act. This video was strictly for edification and educational purposes only. I'm not making a dime off of this video, all right? So this short video is about the threat from within, all right? Because as you just saw, Esau is on high alert over the infiltration of Babylon from the Moabites or the Chinese. You heard? So there's biblical scriptures that are tied into this, all right? First of all, the Moabites in Book of Psalms 83 are mentioned as an enemy of Yasharallah, all right? So what I'm saying is that if Moabite attacks the Edomites here in Babylon, we're going to be affected too, all right? So don't you think for a minute the Moabites will say, oh, well, you know what? We got to be careful about those blacks, those African Americans over there in America. You think they give a damn about that? All right? So there are enemies too, all right? And number two, you got the biblical scripture, and I'm just roughly paraphrasing right now about the open walls or the open borders, okay? So as it was mentioned, how all these foreigners are coming in, buying up land and property in Babylon, all right? So keep that in mind. All right, you Akwats and Akims, okay? Or Akims and Akwats, all right? Keep this in perspective. Know your enemies, all right? This is very imperative. We have to be circumspect according to the book of Ephesians 5 and 15, all right? We must be circumspect at all times and know what's going on. You heard? So all praises, honor, and the glory shall go to Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahushai, Ba'asham, Rukakodash, Brakatum. All right, double honor shall go to apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who continue to teach and to rule well. Also, Shalom to the Akims and like-minded camps and individuals of Great Millstone who continue to teach and to rule well, who continue to teach as one body. And also, Shalom to the sincere Akwats who are continuously learning in silence as the scriptures have commanded for you to do so. All right, so this is Azariah Gabar representing the King is Coming channel with this impromptu lesson, okay? So Kwam Yasharallah, Rise Israel, and as always, Lord willing, on to the next video. Shalom.